He walked in wearing worn-out clothes, a dirty cap, and a mangy dog by his side, and that was enough for them to roll their eyes. They laughed, whispered, and treated him like an intruder. But when he signed the guest book, the manager couldn't. Remain standing. It was too late. Subscribe to our channel now and discover how a simple man showed that appearances can be very deceiving. The Royal Palm Hotel shimmered like a jewel embedded in the shoreline of Hampton Beach, Virginia. On Twice, that January morning, the lobby pulsed with the elegant buzz typical of high season. National and foreign tourists circulated with their designer sunglasses, while staff in impeccable uniforms glided across the Italian marble floor, ready to attend to any whim of their select clientele. Sarah Wilkins, the general manager, observed the movement with satisfaction. At 42, she had built a solid career in the luxury American hotels chain, and the Royal Palm was considered the crown jewel. Her brown hair, always impeccably pulled back in a bun, and her navy blue tailored suit conveyed exactly the message she wanted: sophistication, efficiency, and absolute control. Ms. Wilkins, the mining company executives have confirmed dinner in the main restaurant, informed Tyler Jenkins, the newly hired young receptionist. And the global media marketing director will arrive at 2 p.m. with her team. Excellent. Make sure the presidential suite has the white orchids she prefers, replied Sarah, checking her wristwatch. And don't forget, this afternoon we'll have the final meeting about the international investors' visit. We need to be impeccable. It was at that moment that the revolving doors moved and time seemed to slow down. A man of approximately 65 years entered with slow and tired steps. He wore simple khaki pants, a plain white shirt with no visible brand, and worn leather sandals. His face, marked by deep wrinkles and prolonged exposure to the sun, revealed a life of hard work. By his side, attached to an improvised leash made of braided rope, walked a skinny mutt with thin yellowish fur and a visibly injured hind leg. The contrast was striking. Several guests paused their conversations, observing the scene with a mixture of curiosity and discomfort. A French lady whispered something in her husband's ear, who nodded with a condescending smile. Receptionist Tyler froze, looking questioningly at Sarah, who was already moving toward the unusual pair with firm steps. "Good morning, sir. May I help you?" Sarah's voice was polite, but there was an underlying tone that made her discomfort with the situation clear. "Good morning, miss." The man smiled with simplicity. His voice was surprisingly melodious and well-articulated. "I'd like to stay for a few days. Do you have a room available?" Sarah Wilkins adjusted her blazer, buying time. The Royal Palm was a 5-star establishment, with daily rates starting at $3,000 in the low season. During high season, like now, the values doubled. Plus, there was the dog, clearly sick, possibly with mange or some other condition. "Sir, I regret to inform you that the hotel doesn't accept pets. It's the chain's policy." Her tone was professional but cold. "I understand." The man stroked the dog's head, which looked up with eyes that, despite the illness, overflowed with loyalty. "Butterscotch has been with me for many years. We've been through a lot together." "I understand your attachment, but those are the establishment's rules. I can recommend some inns in the area that accept animals." Sarah gestured to Tyler, who was already opening his computer, probably to search for more unsuitable alternatives. "In that case," the man continued calmly, "could you at least allow me to sign your guest book? I've always been curious about this hotel." Sarah hesitated but nodded. It was a harmless request, and the sooner that man and his dog left the lobby, the better. Tyler nervously pushed the guest book across the marble counter. "Thank you, young man." The man took the gold pen and, with surprisingly elegant handwriting, signed his name. Tyler looked at the registry and turned pale. His eyes widened, and he nervously nudged Sarah. "Ms. Wilkins," whispered the receptionist, pointing to the book. Sarah adjusted her glasses and read the name. The blood drained from her face. There, written firmly, was William Baker. William Baker, the discreet billionaire who rarely appeared in public. The founder of the luxury American hotels chain itself, who had started with a small inn in Vermont, and now controlled 27 luxury properties across the United States. The man who, in recent years, had distanced himself from direct command, becoming an almost mythical figure in the national hotel market. "Mr. Baker." Sarah tried to regain her composure, but her voice trembled. "I didn't know. We weren't expecting—" "There was no reason to expect, miss." He smiled, his brown eyes revealing a disconcerting tranquility. "I like to visit my properties without prior notice. It gives a more authentic perspective." A heavy silence fell over the lobby. Nearby staff who heard the name seemed paralyzed. Some guests, sensing the tension, watched with discreet interest. It was at this moment that Rebecca Martin, a 26-year-old who was filming an institutional documentary for the chain, captured the entire scene with her camera. She had received authorization to record authentic moments at the hotel for a promotional video. What she had just captured, however, was far from the glamour she had been asked to show. "Mr. Baker, please let me immediately prepare our best. Sweet for you," Sarah began, her hands trembling slightly. As for butterscotch, we can make an exception, naturally. I will personally ensure that—" "That won't be necessary," William interrupted her gently. "What I saw today was enough for me." He bent down to pet Butterscotch, whose half-closed eyes showed fatigue. "My friend here needs water. Could you arrange that?" Tyler almost tripped as he ran to fetch a bowl of water. Meanwhile, Sarah remained petrified, her mind quickly calculating the size of the disaster that had just occurred. Jessica Carter, a New York socialite staying at the hotel, approached. With her 35 years, perfectly styled blonde hair, and a light, designer dress, she was the epitome of the Royal Palms target audience. "Mr. Baker," she said with a radiant smile, "I'm a great admirer of your work. My father, Senator Carter, always mentions how you revolutionized the American hotel market." She turned to Sarah with an icy look. "I'm shocked by the treatment I witnessed here today. If the Royal Palm can't accommodate a needy dog, especially when it belongs to the chain's owner himself, I don't know if I want to continue staying in such an establishment." Jessica's words fell like lightning. Other guests began to murmur, and Sarah realized that the situation was quickly spiraling out of control. "Mrs. Carter, I assure you that—" "It's all right," interrupted William, sitting calmly on one of the lobby sofas while Butterscotch drank the water Tyler had brought. "I didn't come here to cause problems. I came to know the reality." Jessica had already taken out her phone and was furiously typing. Being an influencer with more than 2 million followers, her words carried weight. "I'm staying at the Royal Palm Hotel and just witnessed a deplorable scene. The chain's founder, dressed simply and with his sick dog, was treated like an intruder until they revealed who he was. Who really deserves 5 stars in this story? Selective hospitality." The post took only seconds to start going viral. Phones began to ring. The hotel's communications director, Nathan Parker, hurriedly appeared in the lobby, his face showing concern. "Mr. Baker," said Nathan, approaching cautiously, "on behalf of the entire team, I apologize for the misunderstanding. If you could, give us the opportunity to—" "As I said," replied William, rising calmly, "I've seen enough for today." At that moment, the video Rebecca had recorded, showing the entire interaction from William's entrance to Sarah's initial refusal, began circulating in the hotel staff's internal groups. Within minutes, it would inevitably leak to the public. William looked at Butterscotch, who seemed a little more invigorated after drinking water. Then, he directed a penetrating look at Sarah, Nathan, and the entire team, now nervously clustered around. "You know," he said, with a calm voice that somehow managed to be heard by everyone in the silent lobby, "when I founded this chain, nearly 40 years ago, I had only one golden rule. Treat each person who crosses our doors with the same respect and dignity. It doesn't matter if it's a president or a fisherman. It seems that at some point we forgot that." The silence that followed his words was palpable. Butterscotch stood up, wagging his tail slowly, as if sensing the tension in the environment. "Mr. Baker," Sarah tried again, her voice almost pleading, "please give us the chance to—" But William was already walking toward the exit, with Butterscotch faithfully limping by his side. "I'll be in touch," were his last words before crossing the revolving doors, leaving behind a lobby in complete chaos and a media storm that was just beginning to form. 6 hours after William Baker's departure from the Royal Palm, the crisis had taken national proportions. In the meeting room on the top floor, hastily converted into a crisis management center, Sarah Wilkins observed, astonished, the numbers on the screens. More than 5 million views, informed Greg Peterson, the chain's digital marketing director. The video recorded by the intern has already been shared by celebrities, influencers, and even politicians. The hashtag #DChuckWhoDeserves 5 stars is in the national trending topics. Nathan Parker, Communications Director, repeatedly ran his hands through his graying hair. Senator Carter just made a public statement demanding social responsibility from luxury hotel chains. His daughter is being interviewed live right now from our own lobby. Through the glass window of the room, Sarah could see the transformed lobby. News crews had arrived. Jessica Carter, wearing a different dress than she had worn in the morning, clearly she had prepared for the cameras, spoke fluently to NBC. "We need to issue an official statement immediately," suggested Nathan. "Something conciliatory, talking about our values, our history." "No," interrupted Sarah, surprising everyone. "First we need to talk to Mr. Baker, understand what he wants. After all, he owns all this." "We've been trying to locate him since he left," replied Greg. "Nobody knows where he went. The board of directors is in panic. The stock value has already dropped 7% just today." The phone on the table rang. Everyone froze for a moment before Sarah answered, putting it on speakerphone. "Ms. Wilkins." The voice was that of Christine Edwards, the board's secretary. "Mr. Richard Morgan is calling an emergency meeting in 30 minutes. All directors must be present." Richard Morgan, CEO of the chain, rarely visited the properties. His office in New York was practically a corporate bunker, from which he commanded operations with an iron fist. Meanwhile, in the small apartment he maintained in historic downtown Hampton, William Baker watched the sunset through the window. Butterscotch slept peacefully in an improvised bed after being examined by a veterinarian who came to them. The diagnosis wasn't as serious as it seemed, a treatable infection in the paw and moderate malnutrition. William moved away from the window and picked up his simple phone, one of those old ones with physical keys. He dialed a number he knew by heart. "Paul, it's me. Yes, I'm watching the news." He paused. "No, I don't want you to intervene yet. Let them follow the crisis protocol. I want to see how they react." Paul Hamilton, his lawyer and friend of more than 4 decades, was one of the few people who knew William's whereabouts. Since the billionaire decided to distance himself from the direct management of the business 5 years ago, he had adopted an increasingly simple and reclusive lifestyle. "I think this time you went too far, Bill," said Paul on the other end of the line. "The market is reacting badly. The press is having a field day." "Maybe that's exactly what we needed, my friend." William observed Butterscotch sleeping. "Sometimes we need a storm to clear the air." Back at the Royal Palm, the meeting with Richard Morgan was brutal. The CEO, a 50-year-old man with an athlete's physique and a boxer's temperament, didn't mince words. "I want the name of whoever was responsible for training that incompetent receptionist," he demanded, pounding the E table. "I want to know why the hell nobody recognized the founder of our own company." "Mr. Morgan," Sarah tried to explain, "Mr. Baker hasn't appeared in public for years. The last available photo of him is more than a decade old. Besides, he was always known for his discretion and—" "Save your excuses," Richard interrupted her. "Do you have any idea of the damage? Social media is devouring us alive. Journalists are calling our investors. We have reservations being cancelled at all our units." The meeting continued for 2 excruciating hours, resulting in a damage control plan that included an official apology note, Sarah's immediate dismissal, and a package of emergency measures to demonstrate the chain's commitment to humanitarian values. Meanwhile, the video recorded by Rebecca continued gaining views. The young woman, fearing for her job, had tried to delete it after it leaked, but it was too late. And now, to her surprise, she was receiving messages of support from all over the country. One of these messages came from Margaret Reynolds, a 72-year-old lady who had watched the report on television. "Are you the girl who filmed Mr. William?" "At the hotel. I really need to talk to him. It's urgent." Rebecca, intrigued, responded asking for more information. Margaret's response made her heart race. "I worked as a housekeeper in his first hotel in Brattleboro for 25 years. There's something everyone needs to know." The next morning, the Royal Palm awoke, surrounded by journalists and onlookers. Richard Morgan, impeccable in his Italian suit, was giving a press conference in the hotel garden. Luxury American Hotels acknowledges the regrettable incident that occurred yesterday and reaffirms its commitment to humanitarian and inclusive values. Today we announce a complete review of our policies, starting with the acceptance of pets in all our units. While the CEO spoke, his phone vibrated. The message from his assistant was short. Mr. Baker posted something on his social media. First activity in years. It's going viral. William's post on his previously inactive account was simple and devastating. After yesterday's incident at the Royal Palm, I reflected on the path my company has taken. I have decided to donate 30% of my shares to create the Butterscotch Foundation, dedicated to animal welfare and promoting truly human hospitality. In the coming days, I will share my complete experience anonymously visiting our hotels in recent years. Richard momentarily lost his speech in front of the cameras. A journalist, noticing his discomfort, asked if he had seen the founder's post. The press conference quickly collapsed after that. Meanwhile, Rebecca was meeting with Margaret Reynolds in a simple cafe in the center of town. The lady, with her perfectly arranged white hair, narrated a story that the young documentarian could hardly believe. "William was always like this, dear. He started as the son of caretakers on a farm in Vermont. When he finally managed to open his first hotel, a small and simple place in Brattleboro, he made a point of personally meeting each guest." Margaret reached into her purse and took out an old photo, yellowed by time. In it, a young William smiled alongside a beautiful woman and a dog very similar to Butterscotch. This was Lisa, the great love of his life. She was a veterinarian and helped him save this dog, the first Butterscotch. They were going to get married when... Margaret hesitated, her eyes welling up. "When she got sick, it was very quick." "So this isn't the same dog?" asked Rebecca, confused. "No, dear. This Butterscotch must be the fourth or fifth. After Lisa's passing, William always adopted dogs that looked like that first one they saved together. It's his way of keeping her memory alive. Each Butterscotch that gets old or sick he cares for until the end, then adopts another needy dog and gives it the same name." The revelation was moving. Margaret continued, "And there's more. A few years ago, when my husband Anthony needed an urgent transplant, we couldn't afford it. One day we received a call from the hospital saying someone had covered all the costs. I only discovered it was Mr. William years later, by chance. Why are you telling me this now? Because what I saw on television wasn't the William I know. He would never use a situation like this to humiliate anyone or harm the company. If he did this, it's because he saw something seriously wrong happening in the chain he built, something that goes beyond poor service." At that same moment in William's apartment, Paul Hamilton was showing his friend the repercussions of his post. "You just caused an earthquake in the market, Bill. The board is in panic. Morgan has already called my office 17 times. He's part of the problem, Paul." William was petting Butterscotch, who seemed more animated after starting treatment. "When I stepped away, I left clear instructions about the values that should guide the company. Real hospitality, without distinctions. In recent years, I've been visiting our units in disguise. What I saw was a gradual transformation into something I no longer recognize." "And what do you intend to do now?" William looked out the window, observing the city's movement. "I'm going to regain control. Not for me, but for the people who believe in what we built." Morgan transformed our hotels into temples of empty exclusivity. He forgot that true hospitality isn't measured by the price of marble in the lobby, but by the genuineness of the welcome. Paul smiled. He knew that tone of voice. It was the same he had heard decades ago, when a young William told him his dream of creating a hotel chain that would be a reference in American hospitality. "And what's the next step?" asked the lawyer. "An extraordinary board meeting. Statutorily, I can call it, and before that," William picked up his old phone, "I need to talk to some people." At the Royal Palm reception, Tyler observed, discouraged, the movement. After the incident, he had been informed that his probationary period would not be renewed, a polite way of saying he was fired. Sarah Wilkins had already been officially removed. The atmosphere among the staff was one of total apprehension. His cell phone vibrated, a message from an unknown number. "Tyler, this is William Baker. I would like to talk to you personally. Can you come to the address below when your shift ends? Bring Ms. Rebecca, if possible." The young receptionist almost dropped the phone. Quickly, he contacted Rebecca, who was equally surprised. She had just said goodbye to Margaret and was keeping the old photo like a treasure. Meanwhile, on social media, the repercussion was gaining new contours. A famous television presenter shared her own experience at a chain hotel. "I was treated very well, of course, but I saw how staff completely change their attitude when they don't recognize someone important. This isn't hospitality, it's selective flattery." The movement was growing organically. Ordinary people began sharing similar experiences in luxury establishments across the country. The hashtag had evolved to hospitality for all. Without realizing it, William had touched on a sensitive point in American society: differential treatment based on appearances and social status. Late that afternoon, Tyler and Rebecca arrived at the indicated address. It was an old, well-preserved building in the historic downtown. When they knocked on apartment 302's door, they were greeted by William himself, with Butterscotch wagging his tail happily by his side. "Come in, please," he invited, with a gentle smile. "We have a lot to talk about regarding the future." Inside the simple but cozy apartment, other familiar faces waited: Margaret Reynolds, Paul Hamilton, and, to the young people's surprise, Jessica Carter, the influencer daughter of the senator. "Welcome to the first meeting of what I hope will be a new phase for luxury American hotels," said William, indicating they should sit down. "Or, as I prefer to call it, back to its roots, American Inns." At the Luxury American Hotels headquarters in New York, silence dominated the imposing meeting room. William Baker, sitting calmly with Butterscotch at his feet, faced the 12 members of the board of directors. The dog, now visibly healthier, observed the scene with attentive eyes. "William, be reasonable," pleaded Richard Morgan, sweating in his impeccably cut Italian suit. "The measures we've implemented since the incident are already having an effect. The pet acceptance policy has been well received by the market. We're investing in more humanized training." "I still don't understand, Richard," replied William with a serene but firm voice as he distributed photographs across the mahogany table. "This isn't about pets or cosmetic measures." In the carefully organized images, William appeared in different disguises visiting his own properties, as an elderly man with a cane, a construction worker, a street vendor, a taxi driver. Each photo meticulously documented the differential treatment, or lack thereof, that he received. "Our employees are trained to recognize value in expensive suits and designer luggage, not in people. When no one important is watching, hospitality disappears like magic." The board members shifted uncomfortably, some avoiding looking directly at the photographic evidence they couldn't deny. Paul Hamilton, his lawyer and friend of 4 decades, distributed a bound document to each board member. "This is the company's new master plan. It's not a suggestion, but a formal notification." The changes were radical but well-founded. Return to the original name American Inns, complete revision of hospitality policies, integration of social projects in each unit, mentoring program for employees, and transformation of 30% of the properties into more accessible establishments without sacrificing quality. "This is complete madness," exploded Morgan, his face alternating between red and pale. "It will destroy the brand value we've carefully built for years." "I strongly disagree," replied Elizabeth Baker, William's sister, breaking her usual silence. "My brother is proposing a return to our roots, not an irresponsible revolution. It's a realignment with the values that made this company great in the first place. The silence that followed was broken by the soft sound of butterscotch stretching at his owner's feet. In the last few weeks, revealed Paul with a professional tone, William has discreetly acquired an additional 12% of shares through secondary funds, added to the 43% he already owned, and Elizabeth's 5%. This gives him absolute control over any strategic decision. "You planned this all along," accused Morgan, loosening his tie as if he urgently needed air. "Actually, no," replied William, with a slight smile. "I only planned to visit a hotel as a common person and his sick dog. The rest was a natural consequence of the culture you helped create, Richard." 3 months later, the Royal Palm, renamed Hampton Inn, had become the vibrant model of the new philosophy. It still maintained its 5-star status and its exclusive clientele, but something fundamental had changed. The atmosphere. Authenticity had returned. On a golden April afternoon, William was walking barefoot on the beach sand with butterscotch when he heard his name. It was Sarah Wilkins, the former general manager who had been fired after the incident. "Mr. Baker," she said, visibly nervous, "I would like to apologize personally for what happened. It was a terrible mistake, fueled by years of a corporate culture that I inadvertently helped perpetuate." William observed her for a moment, noting her genuinely remorseful expression. "I accept your apologies, Sarah. We all make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them." "Thank you," she replied, relieved. "I got a job at a small inn in Nag's Head. I'm learning a lot about true hospitality. It's liberating, actually." William smiled without revealing that, after the incident, doctors had detected a heart problem during his examinations. Nothing immediate, but enough to remind him of the preciousness and finitude of each day. The next day, in the spacious event area of the inn, the first inclusive hospitality meeting was taking place, bringing together independent hotels, family inns, and even direct competitors of the chain. The auditorium was full of professionals eager for a new approach in the sector. "It's surprising to see American inns leading an initiative like this," commented a specialized journalist with Jessica Carter, who was elegantly coordinating the event. "Surprising only for those who don't know the true story of the company," she replied with a confident smile, "or the visionary man behind it." William, sitting discreetly in the last row with butterscotch comfortably settled at his feet, observed everything with quiet satisfaction. By his side, Margaret Reynolds carefully held the old photograph, yellowed, by time that showed him with Lisa and the first butterscotch. "She would be deeply proud," Margaret said softly, "of all this that you built." "I know," replied William with a lump in his throat. "Sometimes I think she somehow orchestrated all this from above. Lisa was always stubborn when it came to making good happen." Rebecca, now Director of Documentation and Institutional Memory, approached with her professional camera. "Mr. Baker, could you say a few words for our historical archive?" William reflected for a moment, stroking butterscotch. "It means that it's never too late to correct course, that companies, like people, can lose their way, but can also find themselves again if they have courage. And that, in the end, what really matters isn't the marble on the floor or the stars on the facade, but how we make people feel when they cross our doors." 6 months after the initial incident, the transformation was complete and flourishing. American Inns had become a respected case study in international business schools, proving that authentic values could coexist with sustainable commercial success. In an intimate ceremony, William received a prestigious international award for innovation in hospitality, not for the ostentatious luxury of his properties, but for the courage to redefine the sector. "This award isn't mine," he said in his brief and moving speech. "It belongs to every employee who understood that true hospitality doesn't discriminate. It belongs to every guest who gave us a second chance, and it belongs, especially, to an extraordinary veterinarian who taught me many years ago that the character of a person or a company is revealed in how they treat those who can offer nothing in return." That starry night, upon returning to his simple apartment in the historic downtown, William found a luminous surprise. Tyler, Rebecca, Margaret, Jessica, and various employees had organized a small, warm celebration. "It's a birthday party," explained Tyler with youthful enthusiasm. "Not for you, sir, but for the day when everything changed. Exactly 1 year ago, a simple man and his faithful dog entered a hotel and transformed not just a company, but our way of seeing the world." When everyone finally said goodbye, William contemplated the twinkling lights of the city with Butterscotch comfortably nestled by his side. On the horizon, he could see the elegant outline of Hampton Inn illuminated against the night sky. "I think we've finally arrived, my friend," he whispered, stroking the now bright and healthy fur of the dog. "We took our time, but we arrived at the right destination." For a brief and magical moment, William saw in Butterscotch's attentive eyes the same special sparkle he had so loved in Lisa's eyes, a sparkle that said, without the need for words, that doing good without looking at who was the only luxury that really mattered in the end. Dear listeners, we hope that William and Butterscotch's transformative journey has not only entertained, but also deeply touched your hearts. This story reminds us that true hospitality transcends appearances and social status. It resides in the genuine and equal welcome of each person who crosses our path. To continue this emotional journey, we've prepared a special playlist with equally inspiring narratives that explore the most authentic values of our American culture. Find it easily by clicking on the icon on the left side of the screen. If this story about transformation, hospitality, and human values resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and gift this video with your valuable like. Daily, we bring original stories that explore the multiple facets of the human experience. Share in the comments situations where you were judged by appearance or special moments when a simple gesture of kindness completely transformed your day. Your personal experiences are treasures that inspire us to continue this narrative journey. Until our next meeting.